And we are live on the air.
It is Friday, which means it's a special edition of CZLF.
Yes, I kind of expected that we were going to go hot after the decision of the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Care Organization.
Mm-hmm. In case you're wondering what that is.
That is the decision that breached today that overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
There's been...
And what that does is it overturned... Okay. It overturned the constitutional right, the federal right for a woman to seek an abortion in the first 2 trimesters.
Okay? Yes.
And what it does is it gives the law back to the states. The states can do whatever the hell they want and not be bouncing up against a federal statute.
Well, federal protection.
Federal protection is a better word.
So yeah, I know that there are
22 states.
Okay.
That are poised with 13 of them with trigger laws that will probably start as early as Monday.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to work on a weekend if they're the government.
Is Idaho in that trigger law state?
I actually did not check, but I suspect I think they are.
Yeah, I know that
I don't have any form of research to look.
I know that they're up there on the
right
status because the area's Planned Parenthood released a statement earlier this week saying that they're gonna work up until the last minute. Mm-hmm. Washington State
we do not.
Providers, we do not. However, that they have positioned themselves to once again take medical refugees from Idaho and other states.
Exactly. So this is, let's see. Yes, Idaho has a trigger ban. Wyoming, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas, and that state there, which I think is North Carolina. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's 13 states with trigger laws.
Yeah,
the rest and the other 11 or so are likely to ban. There's a couple states that are uncertain, and then there's a bunch of states that are not going to. But it's about a 50% 50-50 split in this country right now.
Yeah, Thanos snap of the fingers and 50 years of law go up in smoke.
Yeah. Which sets a scary ass precedent.
It does set a scary ass precedent, and anyone, regardless of what issue you are on, whether you support a woman's right to choose or you support the right to ban it, you should look at the decision hard. Mm-hmm. You should look at that. You should look at Rick Scott's 12-point plan to rescue America and the Texas GOP's the Texas Republican platform for 2022. Between those three, you really have got a clear picture of what one of our political parties wants to transform the United States into.
The political party wants to repeal the 20th century is what they want to freaking do.
It's more than the 20th century, from what I can tell.
They want to go back to, they basically, okay. They want to go back to
Susie's a little upset. She didn't want to do this, and I kind of pressured her in because it's
a sore point, man.
Yeah, it's basically all of my horrible thinking and pessimism coming true.
See, there's an article in the Atlantic that says Alito's plan to repeal the 20th century. Mm-hmm. So yeah, not entirely. That's not my phrase.
No.
So Samuel Alito, what he's doing is he is using the 14th Amendment.
Oh, it's bringing it back to the state's choice.
Exactly, and that means that that goes all the way back to segregation and before it does.
Correct.
Plessy versus Ferguson, Dred Scott versus Sanford, all of those.
Well, we've got some big issues, and it's a lot that people don't realize because they've lived all their lives.
Yeah, literally. And this goes all the way back to slavery, people. This kind of move could.
Okay, so
You got me mad.
I got Susie shaking her little T-Rex fists.
Hey, I got big T-Rex. I got big T-Rex fists.
Okay, so let's kind of spell it out. The really clear one that we see that's coming up and has been mentioned multiple times is gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first.
Oberfell versus Hodges.
Yep.
That's one. And what that would do would basically, because it would break it back down to, it wasn't even that long ago when the United States said, okay, federally gay marriage is protected.
I believe it was 2012.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
Okay. What it did is before that, the states had the choice to do whatever they needed to do to ban or not ban. Right.
Yeah.
So Clarence Thomas has already got that in its sights.
Mm-hmm.
He's also got Lawrence versus Texas in his sights. Do you know which one that is?
Which one's Lawrence versus Texas?
That is same-sex relationships.
Okay.
He basically...
Oh, the sodomy laws.
Yes.
So, yeah, that impacts...
He's going to try and make it so it's illegal to be gay again.
Well, it's not just gay, and that's really important. And that's why I really hate that confusion.
Okay, to have gay sex.
Well, no, it's not just gay sex. We're talking here. We're talking blowjobs and anal sex and
between consenting adults.
Between consenting adults. Of any gender. And that's really important. It's like, hey guys, you like your blowjob and steak day? It's gone.
Yep. Another one he's after is Griswold versus Connecticut.
Which one's Griswold?
Birth control access.
Oh, access to birth control.
Yeah.
That's been a real serious problem. And I know I've had to go to bat for a couple ladies doing searching for birth control, even with the lax laws. Birth
control access is not just, tubal ligations in this situation. It is things like, but there's this myth out there that birth control causes abortions.
Oh yeah, it's the Plan B is an abortion pill. Right. We really saw that when this initially was preliminary release, that people were like saying,
get more Plan Bs.
Stock up on Plan Bs. And I'm like, dudes, that doesn't do anything.
Well, it does. It prevents an egg from being implanted. If the pregnancy started, a Plan B is not going to stop it.
Yeah.
However, it will stop it from starting. It's not an abortion. It's not an abortifacient. It is a birth control.
Correct. Well, it depends on the extreme nature of because there are some out there that believe that when an egg is fertilized,
that's it.
And that's it. And that means that, hey, those test tubes that you've got you're mixing them up and you're matching eggs with sperm.
All of those frozen fetuses
are prosecutable.
Frozen zygotes.
Yeah.
It also means that miscarriages are prosecutable.
Correct. And we've already seen that in Texas.
Yeah.
That lady that was arrested in Brownsville.
Yeah.
Earlier this year.
If you can't prove that your miscarriage was an actual miscarriage, you could be thrown in prison.
Mm-hmm. And that actually happens in Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to note is it prevents the access to safe abortion by poor people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the rich mistresses. Nope. They will get flown off or they'll get killed.
Yeah.
That was a famous case happened in, I believe it was the Dominican Republic, where a mom and her son killed the mistress because she got pregnant.
Okay, here's the thing. An abortion ban will not stop abortions. It will stop safe abortions.
Yeah.
Abortions will always... They've been there since women have been able to get pregnant.
Well, a famous one is Ben Franklin putting together a formula in a math book for medicinal or
Pharmacological
yeah,
purposes,
because he if you mix a certain set of herbs, you can get
and that was known way before Ben Franklin.
Oh yeah, but he was one that famously
he published it.
Yeah, and there's been actually several publications because
Oh, yeah.
I actually had a copy at one point of Green Man published the formulas in the 90s. And I actually had a book of recipes at one point.
This is something this is one of the reasons why women were burned as witches.
Yes.
Okay, that right there. So the question is, what do we do about it?
Well, I know that
we can go out there and shout, but this is Supreme Court. We can't really just kick them out.
Well, the process for kicking them out requires
it's a super
majority of senators,
and that's not going to change what happened here today.
No, it's not.
So what do we do?
However, well, one of the things is first of all, you need to release some anger. I know that there are women's marches going on all over the country. I saw some as early as tomorrow. So yeah, that's an important one. And then the second is you need to really plug into the political process. It's voting. It's advocating folks that will do something, not just adequately. That was one of our biggest things in the conversation I had with our son this morning. Was he was complaining about it. It's like, well, unfortunately, the large coalition that is the Democrats have only been governing in an adequate manner. In this case, adequate's not going to cut it, because if if that gay marriage is dissolved and you happen to live in those states, your removed spouse doesn't have legal rights,
and your children can be taken from you. This is a massive step backwards.
Yep.
And we're talking all the way back, because of what he's using. He's using the Plessy versus Ferguson. Alito's using the Plessy versus Ferguson argument. Okay, and this is way back. And what it is he was arguing that a segregation law was violating his 14th Amendment rights. Okay, he was saying that those shouldn't be, the court should. Those rights should be subject to a popularity contest in each state.
Correct.
Okay, and that was the argument. Alito is arguing that the court should defer to the state legislatures even when laws at issue concern matters of great social significance and moral substance. Well, that's great unless the state legislatures are saying you can't ride in the same car with somebody of a different color. Yeah,
this gets back to where we had a civil war.
Yeah, states' rights was okay. Slavery was about states' rights.
Yeah, there were certain states that wanted to have slavery.
Yeah, and it could go all the way back. If this keeps going the way it's going, if this runs unchecked. Women could lose their right to vote. Women could lose their right to own property. Men and women of color could be subject to huge amounts of segregation and or slavery. It could go that far back.
It can. However, it's the biggest thing to look at is kind of the immediate stuff.
I'm just trying to trying to scare people.
I'm being realistic.
Okay, well,
let's look at the realism.
The realism we're looking immediately.
Was it 84 that women got their first chance to have their own credit card? It wasn't that long ago.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, because there was a point in the 70s and 80s that
you could not own your own bank account or your own credit card without a male signing off on it.
Correct. These are not too long ago, and that was after Roe versus Wade. And that's really important to look at. Is like, yeah, between this and the whole Miranda
Mm-hmm.
going away, it's like, okay, this is kind of, we're treading on removal of 50 years of rights.
More than 50 years, Matt. More than 50 years of rights have the potential to be stripped away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they could go all the way back.
Well, I'm not going to say they're going to go all the way back.
But I honestly, as a woman, I feel like my right to vote's being threatened. Because it's only about 100 years old.
It is about 100 years old. However, that would require a repeal. However, the closest that they will get to it is that Texas GOP platform
Mm-hmm.
where they want to remove the 1968
Mm-hmm.
Voting rights.
Uh-huh. That's another thing. Voting rights laws are hugely in risk right now. We got someone listening. Hello, whoever you are.
That's Mister. He likes the show. It's the voting rights is really important because what it is that minority clutch on power.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about it before. There's only about 30% of loud people wanting a horrible dystopia, and they don't realize how horrible it is.
No, you got people like Amy Coney Barrett sitting on the Supreme Court, basically trying to strip away her own rights.
Well, yeah, that's a bizarre one. I've never quite understood that one because it was the whole, the man makes all the decisions. Well, why are you sitting here as a judge? It never made sense to me.
No.
It's like, do you talk to your husband about each court case and
Probably.
then have them?
It's possible.
Well, you've got Clarence Thompson and Jenny Thomas talking back and forth.
Yeah.
There's points where he should have recused himself from cases.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. It's like, yeah, he should have recused him. You've got people that have, supported an insurrection.
There's an interesting thing.
Still on the bench. What?
Marriage between interracial marriages. Clarence Thomas is married to a white woman.
Correct.
That could be made illegal in these states if they start keeping this track down.
Mm-hmm.
And relatively quickly. That just happened in what, 67?
Loving was 67, 68, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Clarence Thomas would be illegally married to the woman he professes to love.
Yeah, in certain states.
Yeah.
Because there's certain states that would say, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and suddenly your marriage is deemed illegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the nuts and bolts of it. You look at. I have to refer to that Texas GOP platform.
Yeah, that's
because it was 40 pages, but it really kind of spelled out what the Republican Party is striving for.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking. It managed to kick out the log cabin Republicans. Say, hey, you're not welcome there, and they really made some interesting statements, and Trump was like, why are you kicking these people out? So it was really kind of fascinating on that. And then you look at their platform, and it was just, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about removal of, it was something like 8 different departments. Department of Education.
They want the EPA gone.
And one of the EPA gone, the OSHA gone.
Yeah.
Let's see, you said EPA, Department of Interior gone.
Yeah, they want all the regulatory bodies gone.
Yes.
They also, one of their goals is to secede.
Yeah.
To take Texas, and I don't know what the hell they're planning to do with it, but they want to make it its own nation again. For that 20 minutes we had back in the 1800s when they were their own country.
Yeah, before Mexico took them over.
Yeah, I ain't gonna. Yeah, how are they going to support themselves if they do this?
I don't know, because it's kind of interesting because they've got they mentioned we're strong, we're mighty, and it's like you realize you've got a bunch of military bases on there, including Fort Hood.
And they're gonna have to pull out, or you're gonna have a Guantanamo situation.
Yeah. Fort Hood is massive.
Yeah.
And
they're going to lose military contracts. They're going to lose
Well, they're already starting to lose contracts.
No, they'll use the military ones.
Well, one of the big ones was because of Abbott's little border shakedown earlier this year. There was a railway for goods from Mexico, from the manufacturing centers, up into Michigan and in that area.
Okay.
So goods and services.
Okay, great.
It means jobs.
Well,
it means millions in commerce. But because he decided to shake down trucks and cause that billions of dollars of losses, Mexico said, hey, you know what?
We're going to do something different.
We're going to go through New Mexico.
Yep.
So it shifted, billions in trade on a regular basis from Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to see that more and more because long term, it's just horrible decisions. Long term, this is a horrible, horrible decision. I can't stress that enough.
Nope.
And
not
it's
just long term, but it's middle term too.
And it's one of those ones. This is a canary in the coal mine situation where the canary is dead, and sitting around those benches, you've got red robes, and that's not a good sign. And like I said, that should concern everybody.
When Margaret Atwood wrote *The Handmaid's Tale*, it was not an instruction manual. But that's kind of the direction we're going.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so, because there was still, people were treated as cattle.
Yeah.
However, there were still levels of environmentalism. Yeah.
Did you ever read the books?
I did not read the books.
There you go.
That is, like I said, you got really look for 40 pages of, environmentalism is look bad.
Yeah.
It's like, I like the outdoors. I like camping and hunting.
And this is that's the kind of thing, you kill the Department of the Interior and suddenly, oh, look, let's start drilling for oil in Yellowstone.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really out there. And that's why I tell people, you need to look at some of these arguments. You need to look at these 12 points. It's like, oh, hey, you can't talk about racism. And it's like, like our country went through hundreds of years of literal slavery.
Institutionalized racism.
And, we still, to this day, we still see evidence of redlining. We lived in actually the south side of town. And the common joke was the police didn't go south of Crawford.
Yeah.
Because that was the poor section of town, right. And it's been historically that way forever.
Yep.
So yeah, years after official redlining ended, it's still there. You see that, and this is one of the things when insurance rates are set by zip code.
That's another big thing. So what it boils down to is you need to talk to your legislators. We need to get some people elected who are going to make a difference.
And if you're one of those constitutionalists, this should, you should feel the hairs on the back of your neck going, because these guys basically said that, hey, we as justices, we're not allowed to make laws. We're not allowed to evaluate the laws. We're not allowed to do what the Constitution states is our job. And that's terrifying.
Yes. The Supreme Court for some reason, it has lost their mandate.
Well, no, it didn't.
Well, they're refusing their mandate.
The current head of it and the majority, I can't even call them conservatives anymore, because they're not interested in conserving the law or American values. They're extremists.
Yeah, they're radical.
And it's because of a long-term plan that they flew that plane into that building.
Mhm.
And that's the best way to look at it. It was an organized effort for years, very focused to get people into position that would vote in a political manner.
Yep, and that's what's happening.
And that's what's happening. And you're going to see laws stripped. I mean, I didn't expect to have to instruct my son if he ever gets stopped by the police that, hey, the first words out of your mouth are, "I want to see a lawyer," and those are the last words out of your mouth.
Yep, because there's no Miranda law anymore.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to see more and more of this happen. One of the things that happened earlier, and I'm going to segue off, was group policies, the healthcare for group policies, and with end-stage renal disease. There's a 90-day waiting period between being diagnosed with end-stage renal disease and being able to be put on Medicare.
Right.
And it's been that way since '73.
Right.
Because of Nixon.
There's our specific plans Medicare designed plans to help people who are in end-stage renal disease. And usually when you're in end stage, you are on dialysis.
Yes.
And there are specifically created plans for people who are in that situation.
And it's a massive problem.
It is.
Because there's only like two dialysis outfits out there.
Yeah, the
and they can charge whatever they want. They create this.
Boy, do they!
And boy, do they! So, in other words, in 90 days, they will charge you. Basically, it's the rate of the same amount as a kidney transplant. It's right around $543,000.
Right.
Most Americans do not have $1,000, let alone $543,000. They allowed those group policies to be absolved from that.
Right.
That means there's no out-of-pocket max for them.
Yeah.
So if you ever get that, you need to head over to the individual market. And this is why we've been saying, hey, individual market is where it's at.
Yeah. Because the groups are they're not going to play ball.
Well, no, it's not that. It's they've had these carve-outs, these political carve-outs.
Oh, yeah.
And this is another.
Well, they've had carve-outs. I've always had carve-outs.
They had carve-outs when the ACA was formed. And now we're seeing the justices put in more carve-outs for these group plans.
Yep, that is how they're taking chips at the ACA right now.
And it's really about, okay, do you support individual rights or do you support corporate rights?
That's right. And you should be supporting individual rights because that's how you should be. And that's what the justices need to be doing, but that's not what they're doing.
Stop with the need. They're not going to respond to need.
I'm still angry.
Yes. If push comes to shove, if you want me to drive you to Seattle, I'll drive you to Seattle and let you do the walk with some sisters. We've got a lot of work to do. We've actually been one of the few areas that we've had candidates come in and talk policy with us. We've always had it open, and strangely, the only candidate we've ever had in was Dr. Kim Schreier.
That sounds strange.
Well, I know because she's a doctor and she actually cares, and she's actually a good representative. I actually went and spoke to the previous one, and he was all about the corporate money.
Yeah, that's the case.
And that's why I started supporting whoever would run against him. And that's really what you've as a voter, as an American, you've got to really start focusing on is, okay, do they support individual rights? And we're not talking, oh, I've got a right to a gun. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than hey, I got a right to choose whether or not I need an abortion. Because these are folks that are saying, hey, it's regardless of incest, it's regardless of rape, it's regardless if it's a tubal pregnancy.
If it's life and death.
Well, that's the ectopic pregnancy. And the minute
cannot,
that's a death sentence.
It's a death sentence. You cannot survive that.
And there are medical conditions where the only resource to save a woman's life is an abortion. And these laws that are being proposed, these trigger laws, because trigger sounds cool, is going to kill women.
Absolutely.
And I'm as a dad and a parent, I'm not inclined to send my kid to college to any of those states.
Nope.
I'm inclined not to advise my son to, hey, that's a great opportunity. However, the social situation for that state's messed up. You shouldn't live there. And we're going to see some migration.
Oh yeah.
We've started to see some migration over healthcare, and we're going to see a lot more migration because those other states are literally stripping away rights of its citizens.
Well, the thing is, you're going to see migration the other direction too.
I think you're going to see fewer because
we've already seen it started. We've seen people moving to Idaho all over the place.
Yeah, and when they go to Idaho, they just oh my God, it's really as bad as I thought.
That's a good point to land on.
So hey, yes, it's a tough day. However, you've got each other. Know that you're in the majority, and you've just got to work on having that majority be heard.
Yep.
So hey, have a good have as weekend as you can. We're out of here for now. We've got work to do.
Yep. People to see, people to help.
Yep. And bye-bye for now.
Bye.